Hey Mets fans, welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are having a great start to your day. And quick shout out again to everyone that chimed into not just last night's stream at the time of recording this, talking about Kevin Pillar signing with the Mets. It happened an hour into our stream because it originally wasn't the topic of discussion. So that was awesome to catch it live. And also shout out to everyone that chimed in to today's stream earlier here at Richie at Mets Media's channel, where we had our weekly Mets talk segment. So if you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you do. I will leave it in the description down below. But in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at further on the Mets and their approach to the MLB offseason, because yes, today is officially basically the last day of the offseason, with the pitchers and catchers for the Mets reporting to Port St. Lucie starting tomorrow at the time of recording this. So a lot of stuff is still bound to happen with the Mets, and in my mind at least, it looks like that there are still 3 potential moves the Mets can make, whether that is either later today or if that is in the coming weeks. Whatever it's going to be before the season, that will definitely help this roster and truly round it out. So the question is, what is it going to be and what players are involved? That's what we'll be taking a look at in today's video, so make sure you stay all the way till the end. As always, final deets and all my thoughts on all the players currently connected with the New York Mets, which ones seem more likely than others, which one would be the better fit, and what is going to be happening with the Mets overall as they get closer and closer to the start of the 2021 season. And if you guys end up enjoying this kind of Mets content and want to see more great Mets content like this, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button, share this video with your friends, put on the notification bell, all those great things. Thank you all so much for the countless support. Help us by getting us to 6K subs if you haven't already, guys. We're going to be doing amazing things this season. But without further ado, let's get right into this video. Alright guys, so if you've been following along here on the channel, either in the streams and my streams with Richie at Mets Media recently, earlier today, or whenever, then you know that I feel pretty strongly that the Mets are not done this offseason, nor should any rational Mets fan believe that they are by any stretch of the imagination. Realistically, there are 3 different moves that definitely stand out, one of them being still the starting rotation. As we know, for the New York Mets, they're still showing interest in numerous different players that they would like to help address the rotation. They've shown interest in basically every player out there through free agency this offseason, as we know. But one guy that has been in plenty of reports as of late that the Mets have had continued interest in is, yes, Taijuan Walker, and we touch about him plenty here on the channel, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse there. But as of late, the Mets have been in contact with Taijuan Walker, and the latest reports at the time of recording this have indicated that he's looking for around 10 mil a year at least on a multi-year contract. So in my belief, either a 2 or 3 year deal would make sense for the Mets, probably more so 2, around 20 mil. I think that's fair. The guy has played right around 500 innings and is still in the prime of his career. He's dealt with plenty of injuries, dealing with Tommy John and others, which has left him out in whole of previous seasons. But in the shortened seasons, playing time with both the Mariners and the Blue Jays, as we know, really stood out, and that is telling that hopefully he can continue to replicate those numbers, at least still be a solid back of the rotation starter for the Mets, and when healthy on a lot of other teams could very well be a top 3 starter when fully healthy. So there's a lot to like about Walker, and he looks like, in my mind, the front runner through free agency when you're looking at the pitching aspect for the Mets over a guy like Jake Odorizzi, for example. Not that Odorizzi can't possibly land with the Mets, there's still a possibility, but there's really been nothing there, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, considering the Mets have been very stealthy with their moves this offseason. For almost every single move, a lot of the significant ones, even the most recent ones like Pillar, like Almore Jr. Actually, no, Almore Jr. was actually touched on. They did show interest in him prior to signing him, but that was reported. But a lot of the reports that have been out there have either not been accurate with the Mets, or they haven't been accurate in the sense of no one knew about it until it actually happened. The Mets have been stealthy, so I don't know if things dying down with Jake Odorizzi as of late could be telling that maybe they're still very much in on him. Again, only time will tell, but Taijuan Walker, in my mind, looks like the front runner between the Blue Jays and the Mets as of now, as he's weighing his options for starting pitching. So if the Mets can land him, then great. But then when you look at the bullpen, now it's Seth Lugo out. We had touched about this player prior to the Mets reportedly actually showing interest in him. They did later that day or the following day, so talk about good timing. That being in Trevor Rosenthal, another guy. If you want to know his statistics, everything there is to know, make sure to check out my previous video on him. Same thing with Taijuan Walker, the most recent one. But both these guys have strong numbers. When it comes to Rosenthal, he's a guy who really showed out, had around a 1.9 ERA in the short 2020 season, splitting time with the Royals. And then when he was dealt to the Padres in 9 appearances as they were having their playoff push during the regular season, didn't even give up 1 run in 9 innings. So he's a guy that can close, be a setup man, and would be tremendous for the Mets, and really is more valuable now than ever with Seth Lugo out for at least the next 2 months, as he is going to be heading into surgery with a bone spur that recently broke off. And again, I touched about that in my previous Rosenthal video, so take that as you will. But both these guys will make a lot of sense for the Mets as they are heading into spring training. If you look at their current roster invites and non-roster invites, it all totals out for spring training to be 72, when the max you can have is 75. So again, you're going to see guys fall off that list eventually as spring training goes on, as more cuts start to come in. But there's currently 3 spots still available at the time of recording this, for spring training for the Mets, and you have to think a guy like a starting pitcher, whether it's be through the free agency. If so, then Taijuan Walker makes a lot of sense for them on a shorter-term deal. I wouldn't go past 3 years. I think 2 would definitely be in the sweet spot for them. And then when you look at other guys like Trevin Rosenthal, he would make a lot of sense to help out this bullpen and really help round things out. And as we know, the Mets have tried and are continuing to try, I believe, and parting ways with one of, if not both of, guys like Jeurys Familia and Dylan Betances. And if that is in fact the case still, then they're definitely going to still try to shore up that bullpen. They may go down trade avenues, but nothing has been further reported as of now. And then when we get on to the third position that you guys probably know by now, we talked about it more times than I can count, that being in third base. As of now, JD Davis is going to be the starting third baseman for the New York Mets. And if so, all I could hope for is that he thrives, his defense gets better, Lindor will help him there. But realistically, for a Mets team that has been prioritizing defense all offseason, that has made depth moves like no other in helping prioritize defense, in my mind, I just would be surprised, to be quite frank, to see JD Davis starting at third base. But is it an end-all situation if it happens? No, of course not. I'll still be happy to see JD on the team. I would just be surprised given the reports that we've seen. It doesn't look like the Mets are committed to JD long-term, and that's why they've shown interest in a lot of bigger name players at third base. And if you look at what we see here from Jed Hoyer earlier today, that being for the Chicago Cubs, has stated the following: that right now we're not engaged in any trade talk, and we haven't been for a bit. So when he was asked earlier in his presser so that the Mets stuff was inaccurate, he stated that yes, that's what I'm saying. So again, I don't know exactly how much truth we should put into that. Again, Hoyer, the last thing he's going to say representing the Cubs is that yes, we are trying to shop one of our cornerstone MVP caliber players in Chris Bryant, who's a pending UFA at the end of the year. And yes, we have not gotten a deal done with the Mets, possibly because the Mets do not want to part ways with our asking price, that being and Francisco Alvarez, who's one of the top prospects for the Mets, as we know. Because realistically, it would make no sense for the Mets to part ways with a top prospect for a rental and Bryant. Even if Bryant does stellar in the 1 year with the Mets, if they can't extend him, that's going to be a huge problem that they have on their hands. And there's by no means that they are going to part ways with a top prospect, and that right, unless you possibly have a bigger deal with Hendricks or whoever. So as of right now, it looks like the Cubs talks are dying down. We'll see if that picks up at all. Again, the Mets have been stealthy, and Hoyer, the last thing he's going to say is that he's trying to part ways with Bryant. You know, if anything happens, I think we're not going to find out too much before it at this point. And for a team that's going right into spring training like the Cubs and still having uncertainty if they're going to try to compete in the NL Central or not, the last thing that Hoyer is going to want to do is try to give off the impression that we're still trying to part ways with Bryant. It's not going to sit well with the locker room, and it's going to put more salt in the wound to what is already there possibly between Bryant and his relationship with the Cubs. So when you look at the third base options for the Mets, should they still go down the third base route? Because it's not going to be through free agency, it's going to be through the trade market. That's the only realistic way. There are still many guys out there. There's guys like Matt Chapman that we've talked about that still feels unrealistic, but a guy that probably feels the most realistic and is the most realistic option in my mind that we've toyed with for a while, since it was reportedly connected with the Mets, not with just with him but Sonny Gray over the past month, is Eugenio Suarez. So if the Mets feel that Chris Bryant is too costly and they still want to address third base, I would definitely keep an eye on a guy like Suarez. I think he's the most realistic fit now out of what we have currently seen with Hoyer, even if he's not being fully truthful or not. It might just be too difficult of a situation. So again, only time will tell, guys, but Eugenio Suarez is a guy that was just competing with Pete Alonso back in 2019, upwards of 50 bombs in the season, for the most in the season for the NL, and is a guy that would bring tremendous talent both offensively and is at least average defensively, which would be a significant upgrade over what JD currently is at third. Again, this is nothing against JD whatsoever. If he starts the season with the Mets, then okay. All I'm going to say is I'm going to be surprised, because I think we can all get an idea by now the Mets are trying to prioritize defense this offseason, and with them showing interest in all these guys, it's hard for me to believe as a Mets fan, someone that's been following along on a daily basis, that they're completely sold on JD Davis. So if they keep with JD to start the season, then I'm thinking, all right, you're going to the trade deadline and seeing where you're at that point, and maybe going for a guy, a Bryant or whoever it may be. But as of now, I don't think the Mets are fully out of the running for a third baseman. So keep an eye on guys like Suarez, Chapman still, and then after that, it's all just strictly hypothetical with no actual physical reported connection. So take that as you will, guys, but I want to know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about any of these guys landing queens with the New York Mets? Do you think these are the most realistic guys next? And who do you think is the next pick? If I had to say, I honestly believe that Either Walker or Rosenthal, one of those bullpen or starting pitching options is going to be the next move for the Mets that we will either see maybe later today or in the coming days as spring training is finally upon us. And I'm really excited for it, no less. So make sure to let me know if you guys in fact enjoyed this kind of Mets content and want to see more great Mets content like this. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. As always, share this video with your friends, put on the notification bell, all those great things. Thank you all so much for the amazing support. Help us get to 6K subs, guys. We're so close. Our goal is to ultimately try to get upwards of 10K for the start of the season. I know that's asking a lot, but we're trying to grow this community as much as possible. And if you like consistent Mets content, this is a place to be, I assure you. And we're going to be doing a lot of different content literally as soon as tomorrow, probably as spring training picks up. I'm going to start to transition into a lot of different topics and a lot more broad topics, if you will, or specific ones centric to certain players and stuff that has more longevity than just current events. So I hope you guys are going to be excited for that, because I know I am. But thank you again, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll talk to you soon.